As many as there are unsolved cases, there are criminals who haven't been caught, and those people are just like us. They live among us, hiding the truth with a calm face, going about their lives without atoning for their crimes. We've reported on this many times, but they still haven't been caught. What does the criminal think? How do they spend their days? Do they ever feel regret or remorse? Or have they forgotten about the incident and never think about it again? This time, I have received information about an unsolved case. It was about someone who might be the perpetrator of that unsolved case, someone who is believed to know the person involved. They disclosed unrevealed online facts, hoping the video could be a catalyst for change. Believing this could lead to progress or a change in the perpetrator's mindset, I want to cover the story. On April 3rd, 2000 around 4 p.m, a woman was murdered in Ōtsuki town, Fukushima prefecture. A body with its neck, hands and feet tied with rope was found in the Okubo River in Ōtsuki, Koriyama City, Fukushima prefecture, by someone who came for stream fishing. A man discovered it and immediately contacted the police, launching an investigation. The river is about 5 meters wide, with a water depth of around 40 centimeters and a low water level. It is believed the body was abandoned where it was found, not drifted from upstream. The scene showed no signs of struggle, but the body had marks on the forehead as if struck with an object, and there were signs of assault such as being hit in several places. The autopsy determined that the cause of death was asphyxiation from strangulation. It is estimated that about 2 months had passed since death, and the person was identified as living in Ōtsuki town, Koriyama City. She was supporting herself with a part-time job. Her name was Asemi Yamagishi. At 17, police initially assumed someone she knew committed the crime and would be caught quickly, but her unexpectedly wide social circle complicated the investigation. The investigation became difficult, and up until now, more than 30,000 investigators have been involved, and interviews have been conducted with about 28,000 households. But as of 2020, 20 years have passed since the incident occurred, and it still remains unsolved. As I mentioned at the beginning, I received information about the perpetrator of this case from someone who was close in age to her. Every time he looked back at the photos taken with her, his heart ached, which led him to provide this information. That person is watching this video. I don't know whether that person will end up watching this video or not. However, I want to prove by leaving this video behind that no matter how much you try to hide the truth, it will eventually come to light. Now, here are the details of the case. Mr. Yamagishi was discovered on the evening of January 18th, 2000, about 3 months ago. She told her family she was going out for a bit to meet an acquaintance and then left in a car driven by a male acquaintance, Mr. A, and then the next day, on the 19th at the snack bar where she worked part-time, a passerby found a cell phone lying on the street in Katayanagi town, Koriyama City nearby. The phone was partially damaged as if it had been thrown onto the road, and it was identified as hers. She had not returned home since the previous day. The damaged cell phone was returned to her family. Worried about her safety in this situation, her family filed a missing person report with the police on the 25th. While the police continued their search, these 3 points became clear. Her whereabouts were unknown. About half a month earlier, a man who seemed to be older called their home and said that he had found their daughter at Koriyama Station. There were several suspicious phone calls. Days earlier, she told a friend she needed around 100,000 yen. She worked part-time at a snack bar, but beyond that, she was also working night jobs like as a companion, which she kept secret from her family. The police continued their search diligently, questioning her friends to see if they knew anything. But is there anyone? There is one person who knows about her whereabouts. There was no such person, and time passed by in vain. About 3 months later, on April 3rd, 2000, around 4 p.m, as mentioned at the beginning, she would be found. At this point, what I find suspicious is her acquaintance. Does Male A know what happened to her afterward? Who was behind the suspicious phone call? Why did she need 100,000 yen? First of all, regarding whether Mr. A knows what happened to her afterward. In a place like Ōtsuki town, Fukushima prefecture, it's no exaggeration to say that you can't live without a car. Once you turn 18, unless there's a special reason, you need a car for daily life and work. Due to this, everyone owns one car per person. All of her friends also had cars, and at that time, for girls who didn't have their own means of transportation, how many guys they could rely on for rides was considered a status symbol. In other words, even if Mr. I gave her a ride in his car, it's entirely possible that he just dropped her off at the meeting place and wasn't involved in what happened afterward. However, he wasn't exactly her boyfriend, but they were very close. If he had to hand her over to someone he didn't know, it's possible that he was watching her from a distance to see what she was up to. If we could find out where he dropped her off, what kind of car came, and who the person was, we might be able to get some important clues. Next, about the suspicious phone call. Actually, this suspicious call might be the key to tracking down the culprit in this case. This is extremely important information. At that time, she was working several part-time jobs in addition to her job at the snack bar. There were rumors that one of those jobs was somehow connected to this. She ended up quitting this job without notice. The time she quit matches exactly with the time when the suspicious phone call was made to her home. So what does this mean? Isn't it possible that someone called her home, pretending to have taken her into protective custody, aiming to get her family to say, "She's at home now"? Yes, that's right. The person who made this suspicious phone call is someone who knows a lot about this case. Among the people involved, it's said that this person might be the culprit, and the one suspected of making this phone call is someone connected to one of the places where she worked part-time. Mr. Shai is connected to the disappearance of a woman whose whereabouts became unknown. Days earlier, she needed 100,000 yen. Given the shop's nature, a penalty for abruptly quitting is possible. Abortion costs are another reason for suddenly needing that amount. The site where she was found didn't allow cars to pass or turn. After IU fishing started, fishermen arrived and she was soon discovered. There's another fact about the location at that time. The surrounding area was what you might call... It was a place where delinquents hung out, sniffed thinner, and couples fooled around. It's hard to say there was no connection to the delinquents. We can't rule out the possibilities mentioned so far. The informant says that the information hasn't been passed on to the police. The police determined that the fact she was tied up with zip ties was unusual. They questioned several people in the construction industry who had interacted with her, but in the end, none of them became suspects. The police investigation went back to square one, and actually in this case it said locally that the victim wasn't the only one. She went missing. A woman was found with the words "used before and after" written on her. Although her life was not in danger, she had been confined for several days and was found in a weakened state. However, this story may be a separate incident, and its truth is uncertain. Furthermore, there is another case which could be called a secondary disaster. A classmate who was close to her committed suicide after this incident. It is said that people suspected she knew something, or that she was likely threatened by the perpetrator of this case. So far, this is what has happened. Although this case remains unsolved, I believe you can sense that we are very close to identifying the perpetrator. There are two pieces of strong evidence supporting the idea that someone connected to the store where she worked part-time is the culprit. First, both this person and another individual believed to be connected to them left the area after the incident. In fact, it was also discovered that this connected individual had been interviewed about the case on television. Reports suggested he was her ex-boyfriend and a former gang member. There's more. One more thing. He reportedly told those around him that he was the one who killed her. I can't say any more to protect the identity of the informant, but this is the information that has come to light so far. Over 20 years have passed since the incident, and except for the murder charge, the statute of limitations has expired for all other crimes. In order to charge the perpetrator with murder, clear intent to kill must be proven. However, if there is testimony, there may be physical evidence that can be found. Given the circumstances so far, suspicion is directed at him, but of course, there is also the possibility that someone else is the perpetrator. If we consider the possibility of another perpetrator, at the time she was seen appearing at places known as so-called pickup spots. Several friends witnessed it, as I mentioned at the beginning. Her social circle was wider than expected, likely explaining her words. We can't rule out the possibility that she was picked up and got into trouble. Her father still puts his hands together in prayer before her memorial and wishes that the person would turn themselves in soon. Why? He says he wants to know if his daughter was killed. If she were alive, she would be turning 40 soon. Her father says that every time he sees his second daughter's child growing up, he regrets that she might have been able to build a warm family too. The number of tips is decreasing yearly, raising concerns that the case may be forgotten. Learning the truth about this case may sometimes be painful. However, pursuing and uncovering the truth is for her sake and for those who care about her. I believe this is something I can do for her father. I also want to do everything I can without forgetting about this case. That's all for today. Thanks for watching.